Hey guys, Crystal the nurse here. So today we are going to be talking about recovery homes versus traveling and getting surgery by yourself versus, getting a private nurse. Obviously, me being a private nurse, I've been doing this for about 10 years now. I get asked what's best, what works, what doesn't work. Is it okay if I go by myself? I don't think there's an actual answer to, that specific question, whether it's like, I want to go to a recovery home or I want to have a private nurse. I can honestly say that it would basically depend on, for me, I would say number one, it depends on your finances because some women will incorporate that into their total and some women don't, which is why a lot of times, girls might be running around looking for a place to stay or who's going to be reliable, which, in a sense brings me to my number two. Okay, let's start with recovery homes. I think this also applies as well because recovery homes, a lot of times you have to book in advance. You have to know exactly what you want. I know with different recovery homes, they have like different packages, whether it comes to like you want to stay for 5 days or this days, and they give you discounts and whatnot. So I would say the pro of a recovery home, and keep in mind me being a post-op nurse and this being one of my specialties, I'm not necessarily knocking recovery homes as long as the responsibilities are performed adequately. So for me, if it's a recovery home, I would ensure that you have the right amount of money because a lot of girls, like I said before, don't incorporate that in their total. Regardless how much it costs, I would say that's an important factor. Have that money saved up. Recovery homes, I would say another thing about them is it also depends on what level of care you want, because I have had a lot of patients that have found me after they had had surgery and they had gone to a recovery home, and a lot of women share with me their experiences. And one thing I have heard time and time again is that they don't feel like they're getting the attention that they need. And don't get me wrong, I also hear some of my patients that find me or meet me after they've stayed at a recovery home tell me that, yeah, it was the best and the food was great and all this other stuff. And that's fantastic. I think those women that have those experiences are lucky and blessed to have, a recovery with people who are attending to them. I do get both sides of the fence, and I think when I take a step back and I look at it, it almost seems like a hit or miss. I think if something's incredibly reputable, again, let's move on and then we'll circle back to that. But let's move on. Excuse me, I have something in my eye. Let's move on to having a private nurse. So I kind of want to compare the two just a little bit because, again, some women first of all, some women like the fact that someone else is there, because sometimes people may not have the significant other, they may not have a friend that's available, or someone that's a family member that's available. Or sometimes I have a lot of patients that don't want to tell their family or tell, people in their lives. It is their prerogative and I respect all that. So I will say a lot of women obviously don't want to be by themselves after surgery. They want to have someone there who they perceive to be reliable. And I would say if it's a recovery home and it's reputable and there's always going to be a negative review. Just FYI, and this is across the board. It doesn't matter if you are the 4-star this or a 4-star that, there is always going to be that person, there's more than one person usually, that has something to say. That is the world we're living in now. You can have the best of the best and someone is going to find something. So just keep that in mind, because I think sometimes we hear one small thing and then we kind of take it to the next degree. So I just want to kind of point that out. So circling back, when I think of recovery home compared to a private nurse, I am only speaking of a reputable recovery home versus a reputable private nurse. I've seen see, I didn't want to get too deep into this, but I have to say one thing that honestly me as a nurse that disappoints me is when I see people getting scammed online, when I see people saying, "Hey, I booked this nurse," or recovery home too. I've seen the same thing. I've seen scams on recovery homes, scams on private nurses. Nurses don't really know what they're doing when it comes to that. And to me, that's incredibly scary because yes, being a nurse is technically a job, but there's levels to this. There are nurses that are clocking in and clocking out and going home. That's just the truth, just like any other job or career. And then there are those that are a little bit more passionate about it and a little bit more empathetic of the situation. I will say it is disappointing to see people get ripped off and scammed. I just recently saw something, someone had, scheduled something with a private nurse and the private nurse was essentially a no-show. Like that is, to me, that's foreign, first of all, because I'm in Los Angeles. I'm based in Los Angeles. I know you got a lot of you guys ask me, and yes, I do travel. And I think it's one of those things that unless it is, I don't want to say life or death, but it should be very close in terms of canceling on someone because this is serious. It's just like surgery. Imagine if a surgeon canceled your procedure. There would have to be a really good reason for that to happen. And luckily for me, a lot of my clients do book ahead of time, and it makes it easier. So even if it's a situation where the patient is not able to, follow through, at least we have a good amount of time. It's done in a responsible way. I personally am not one to cancel. I don't like canceling. I think it's a reflection of myself, and I have a reputation. And I like to uphold that reputation. And part of that is not only delivering the services and providing education, but it is being responsible and showing up. So that's my take in terms of the private nursing. But I will say it is a little disappointing when I see anybody getting scammed, or there are a lot of people out there that are saying, yes, I'll be your nurse, or I'll be your this, or I'll be your that, but they really don't have the knowledge. And it's not necessarily that they're a bad person, but at the same time, I feel like it's incredibly irresponsible to put yourself out there as a service or as a full package when in fact you're not necessarily that. And not only that, but you're putting the patient in danger. And unless you know your stuff and unless you know it down pat, like it's secondhand nature, then you really hey, moving on. Okay, so some ladies will ask me, whether going alone or traveling alone or getting surgery alone is acceptable. I would say, listen, those ladies that travel by themselves, kudos to you. I don't think it's safe at all. That's just me personally. I feel like unless it's a financial thing, I wouldn't see why you wanted to be alone. So this is why I always circle back and say, if you're planning surgery, automatically include whatever care that you want, whether it's a recovery house or someone private or some type of assistance. Factor it in your total. Just pretend that like that extra amount of money is simply part of your total. It's going to save you so much stress, and it's going to obviously give you the support and care you need. I've had patients where they bring their significant others with them, and obviously I would be their private nurse. Now, that's fine. I educate family members. I educate significant others that are there. So just keep that in mind. I think that's really important because obviously I'm not going to be there like forever. So I'm only going to be there for a certain amount of time, and I only have so much time to not only educate someone who's in a very fresh and vulnerable healing process, who may not necessarily be processing everything I'm saying because you're in such a vulnerable and painful state. It's really important sometimes that if you are bringing a significant other, that that person is being educated and kind of, you know, teachable. So I think it's great if sometimes, you know, my patients have brought their significant others. Overall, I don't feel like it's safe to travel or go through surgery alone in general, like ever, whether it's, you know, whether, there on my phone, whether it be, elective or any other surgery, even if it was something incredibly medical, you shouldn't be alone. A lot of times they won't even allow you to move forward unless you have someone who's available to pick you up and take care of you and whatnot. So I don't recommend that, of course, because for me it's safety first. I would say if you're in Missouri or wherever in the world you're from and you want to hire a private nurse, I would ask questions, a lot of questions. Again, like when I have my patients, we do private consults and we go through everything just to make sure that everything is the right fit, make sure that my patient is educated in what is going to happen before, during, and after, and they feel comfortable after I leave. And I'm still there and I'm still available to answer any questions and anything like that. So I would say if you're doing a private nurse, regardless who it is, make sure they are truly educated and not just a body who happens to be a nurse. You know, shout out to nurses, love nurses, I'm a nurse, but someone who is a nurse in mental health, which technically I am too, but someone who maybe specializes in mental health and just specializes in that may not understand what it is to be a post-op nurse. I am very grateful to have the experience that I do, but the fact of the matter is this is real life. This is your body. This is the money you're putting into, you know, what you want. Ask questions, write them down, and ask them in real time. Do a Zoom. If you're trying to hire a private nurse, do a Zoom, do a phone call, and just obviously get their energy and see what their energy is, because it's really important. You are going to be going through a stressful time anyways. So have a responsible person, a knowledgeable person who's going to be by your side and know exactly what to do if anything were to happen, know exactly different signs are, you know, understand the physiology and anatomy of the human body after surgery. This stuff is incredibly important, and I do not take it lightly with any of my patients. The same thing with the recovery house. I know when it comes to having solid reviews and whatnot, just see what is consistent and get other people's opinion. Again, just remember, there's always going to be someone who's going to say something. I would just kind of go for the overall experience. My personal opinion, I know a lot of these recovery homes don't necessarily have nurses. I know sometimes they have like CNAs, which is a certified nursing assistant. I'm not opposed to that. Some women just want a little bit more focused care. You know what I mean? For me, I would feel very vulnerable if I needed to go to the bathroom and someone may be helping someone else. It's not every recovery home, but I've heard this from patients' mouths before, that they would have just liked a little bit more like attention, I guess. So it's like, I feel like recovery homes fits a certain category of patient who, needs someone there, wants someone to give him the food, all that good stuff. And, I think the same thing with having a private nurse. It kind of fits a certain level of expectations in terms of what kind of care you want. And there's no shame in either. You know what I mean? So, but my thing is just do the research and make sure that whoever it is knows their stuff. So this is Crystal the Nurse signing off. I will see you guys next time.